Hey everybody, welcome to Two on the Vine. This is KY.
And this is Vinny.
Bet you missed us, but we're back to talk about all the latest raves and stories in video games and life.
Video games and life, and it's not even going to cost you anything.
Literally
just your sanity.
Your sanity, your dignity, but no money for now. Because we're announcing a Patreon, and at the $5 tier, you get 30 seconds of podcast devoted to you, specifically, about whatever topic you want to, whatever you want us to talk about. Yeah.
It's going to be called 5 on the Vine. 5 minutes per Vine.
For every $5, for every $1 in the Patreon, you get a minute of podcast. How about that?
That sounds like a lot of work, KY.
Yeah. And we'll do one episode a year, keep up our current pace, you know.
That doesn't sound like a lot of work.
No, it'll be easy. You know, easiest money we've ever made, but...
We're in the money.
Here, let me write this down real quick. Bags of money. Okay. All right. So, what's new, Vin? What's going on?
Well, I've been streaming a lot. I've been doing them things, and I've been playing a lot of different games. I guess really we're going to talk about some stuff on the show that we've been playing. We're going to talk about games we like, upcoming games, some news, and I think a really good topic to cover would be cardboard.
Cardboard?
Yeah.
Explain yourself.
Well, I like the properties of cardboard. You can bend it, you can mold it, you can shape it, and you can do a lot of things with it, including apparently turn it into a fucking like robot.
Yeah, you can make
and that's Nintendo.
You can make a cool hat and write your name on it and be a cardboard king. Yeah.
I have a Sauce Boss crown that's made out of cardboard, kind of. So I know all about that. However, can your cardboard crown detect movement and then also put you in a video game?
No. What is this?
Well, this is Nintendo's newest gimmick, and it's a very, very interesting thing, I guess, called Nintendo Iabo.
Dude, you stole my joke. I was actually going to say exactly that. Nintendo Labo.
Oh, Labo? Okay, cool.
Labo. It's actually spelled Labeaux.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy, that's almost as good of a name as Wii U.
Yeah. Well, one thing I will say, just to get it out of the way nice and early, is that this thing's clearly made for kids.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't imagine them. Like, I just couldn't understand the amount of, like, vitriol I saw on certain forums and stuff. I guess most people did understand, but there was just a disturbing number of people who were just, like, upset that Nintendo wasn't, you know, showing them more Prime 4 or who knows what because they're doing a kids thing. I think they want to expand the Switch to the family, like kids and stuff, because the Wii had that but didn't have the core audience. Switch is kind of like the opposite, you know, it got the core audience real nice, but not so much the kids, I guess, not as much. So
right, it's not like the Wii, where the Wii kind of had this appeal for people who had never played games or like retirement homes. That's a big market. Got to get that retirement home market.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I feel like the Labo, which I read it as Iabo at first because I was really sleepy, and I was looking at my phone and I thought that the L was an I.
Yeah.
So
No,
that will forever be in my mind.
I did the same thing. I actually did that with Final Fantasy IX's Ifa tree, or Aifa tree. I thought it was the Leafa tree. The Lifa tree.
That would have made more sense, to be honest.
It made so much more sense. And then I realized it was Aifa, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But it's one thing I can say is that it's actually like, this is like one of the most Nintendo things to happen in years. You know what I mean? Like, Nintendo is the only company that can, like, dominate the video games market, introduce a bunch of cardboard bullshit just for the heck of it, you know, just to try something different and to try to catch a new audience. And it's like, this is a very Nintendo thing to be doing. If I was a kid, I would be into it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's also Super Nintendo that we weren't able to predict anything like this.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like people were predicting more like plastic,
Yeah.
you know, and then we got cardboard instead. And just on a side note, the anger and the vitriol towards this thing, I don't really understand completely, because they said it was for kids before they announced it.
Mm-hmm.
And just a week before that, they did a direct that had, you know, Dark Souls and, you know, Curb and a bunch of different games that some of which were a little surprising and some of which we knew were coming. And it was like, oh, okay, this is a pretty good direct for the next couple months. And then they were like, by the way, here's something for kids. So I don't think people should have been expecting news of like a Smash or a Metroid or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, you know, they were anyway. And so people got upset. They got their hopes up. I think that generally, by and large, people were excited about this cardboard thing. Didn't their like stocks go up after the announcement?
I don't know. I don't follow that shit.
Something
Lame
like
bullshit. No, I mean, I'm sure it did. I think overall the reception was positive. I think it's just easy to focus on how ridiculous some people were acting. Do you think you're gonna... I don't know. I almost want to get one of them just to like assemble it and just to have it like a display thing. Like get the most visually appealing one and just assemble it just for kicks, see what it's like. Because you got to admit, they look real nice, you know? Like it seems like the most high quality cardboard I've seen in my life. You know?
Yeah, this ain't no cereal boxes, kids.
No Super Mario Amiibo box. You think you're gonna... Do you think you would get one? Just like
only
one?
as a streamer.
Okay. So like, are you gonna stream yourself like assembling it, an unboxing and a reboxing, if you will?
Oh, yeah, that's good. I didn't think about that one.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah, maybe. I think it's not a definite, but I had the thought people might be interested in seeing me build that cool little piano thing.
Yeah.
Which I gotta say, I'm interested in the tech, because I think the piano peripheral that you build, you know, has little reflective strips on each key. So when you push down, the one Joy-Con sensor will detect how far away each key is, and that's how it knows which note you're pressing.
Okay.
So you know, the tech inside the thing is fairly impressive. I am not the target audience for this. I don't think I would actually buy it if I wasn't a streamer. In fact, I know I wouldn't. It's $70, which people are a little upset about, because here's the thing: you get a pack. It's a set of mini games plus whatever programming you can do. There's a limited amount of programming that you can do for some of these labos. Apparently, toy cons they're called. Toy cons.
Yeah. Clever.
So you pay the money for the game, and then you get a sheet of, I think, 5. One of the packs has 5 different things. So like a little RC car, you get the piano, and I think some of the other stuff like the house.
Yeah.
So it's not a cheap, like you can't just drop $20 on it, because you got to get the software and the hardware, which I guess you would call hardware is cardboard. So if it were up to me, I would spend $20 and get one mini game, one peripheral, and that would be it, just so I could stream that and be done with it. Yeah. So I think the entry fee for Labo is a little steep for someone who might be on the fence about it. So yeah, it's a tough choice. It's a tough choice.
So here's what I want. I want that little piano guy, but the touch screen of the Switch turns into a bunch of knobs, and it's a synthesizer. Like a flat out just synth. How badass would that be?
That's awesome.
You just hook it up to some speakers, and through the headphone jack, you have your keys there, and then all of your synth controls on the touchscreen. It'd be perfect. They did something like that with the DS, actually. A lot of people don't realize it, but there's it's called the Korg DS1, and it's essentially just a synth on the Nintendo DS. You just hold it sideways. There's a keyboard, a bunch of knobs, and that's all it was.
Actually, it's funny you should say that. There's a thing called I heard about this. It's called the Korg Gadget for the Switch, and it is a little portable synthesizer to a limited extent, and it's coming out in the spring. And there isn't a whole lot of info on it, but it looks like a rudimentary synthesizer slash music making tool, where you like a kind of a baby Pro Tools. And so that already exists to some extent. If you were to combine that with the keyboard, that would be great value.
Hell yeah.
Great value.
Hell yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah. And one thing I will ask too about the Labo, if you were to repurpose either the existing things or come up with a new Labo, but to suit either a game you want to see or existing games or really whatever comes to mind, what would you want to see out of it?
Part of me feels like they're going to be covering a lot of the bases. So in the trailer, you see like a bazooka for shooting games, or you see like the house, which is weird. The piano is cool. I would love to see the piano, like you said, upgraded with the synth capability. But I guess if I had to choose, it would be like an automaton.
An automaton? How would that work?
I have no
would
idea.
you even need the switch for it? You just plug it into the switch and then it's just a separate, like, music note shaped cardboard.
Yeah, maybe.
I guess like you could just, there'd be like, you would touch the touch screen of the switch like you do the automaton neck, you know? And it's just a ball that's attached to the bottom of the switch. Be the simplest Labo, really, like from a visual standpoint. Just the mouth of the automaton jacked into the side of the switch. Yeah. And then build a bunch of knobs into it and make it a synth automaton.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Upgrades, functional upgrades. And also, I think a fidget spinner Iabo would be easy. Just saying.
Yeah. Here's what I want. If I had to incorporate it into like an existing IP, this is something that everyone wanted with the Wii U and it never happened. I think Iabo or Labo is a really good opportunity to bring back Pokemon Snap. Except it's
good one.
A cardboard camera that, you know, you look through the back, which is the face of the Switch, and the rest of it's a camera, and you like click the button to take pictures, even if it's like not like an AR thing like Pokemon Go, but like you use the gyroscopic aiming the way you do with like Splatoon and things like that. And yeah, and it's just a camera attachment. Essentially, it just makes it look like a big doofy camera while you take pictures of Pokemon.
I think that's a great idea. And in fact, I believe, I'm going to do some Google work here. I believe there is a Nintendo Labo camera already.
Oh, really?
Let's see. Yeah, I think it was in the trailer. They showed what looked like a camera. I mean, obviously, there was no Pokemon. There's a duck. There's a steering wheel. Yep, an old school camera.
There you go. Now,
but it's not exactly how you described it. So, I mean, there's certainly room for, you know, something like... I like the idea of having the switch on the back of the camera. That's cool.
Yeah, because it's like, that's kind of how digital cameras are. It's just a fucking screen on the back of the camera.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Dude, I dig it.
Yeah.
I dig the possibilities, even if like what we currently have is just you know, just for kids. So
I like the they show a flight stick in one of them. And you know, it's not coming out like with this first wave, but I like the idea of a flight stick. I think it's no one really uses flight sticks anymore, like barely, just for flight simulators and stuff.
Right.
And a lot of games that I've played that had like aircraft in them don't even have joystick support. But there's kind of nothing, like I make this argument. It's a lot of fun to play a flight game of any kind with a joystick.
Yeah.
And I would really love to see it make a comeback, even if it is just a big doofy cardboard one. I'd be down for that. Maybe with a Star Fox type thing.
Hell yeah. Yeah, dude, I'd get that in a heartbeat. But the one you gotta get in stream, of course, is the robot one. Like, there's no question.
No.
Obviously.
It's too much. It's too complicated. That thing would take like 4 years to build for me.
It does look really complex. I remember seeing something, I forget if it was just in the trailer or what, but they like opened the back and I was just like, oh my god. Like, the inside of that is intense.
Yeah. moving parts, pulleys, like weird like joints and like ball bearings. It's just a weird thing that you can do. And the only thing is, I wonder, so the target audience for this is kids, right? I mean, as Nintendo would say it, for the young and the young at heart. But my thing is, are kids going to be able to like not break these things after they build them? Because I broke a lot of shit by accident and on purpose.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine they use some kind of, I'm sure it's cardboard based, but I'm sure it's like an industrial I don't know if industrial is the right word, but just a thicker cardboard that's just harder to do that, or just a lot of structural support, so it's harder to do that. But I agree. Like, one of my first thoughts was, holy shit, if I had a kid, he would break the hell out of this so fast.
Yeah.
So,
well, people that have like, there have been a number of people that have tried it already. Like, Nintendo hosted like some events where you could, you know, some journalists will go and try it, and the point is, they said that the cardboard felt substantial and fairly sturdy.
Okay.
So I think, you know, it would be good for certain ages, but I think if you're like getting into like toddler around, or like you know, kindergarten, you're probably going to still see some broken toy cons.
Sure. Yeah, I mean,
but
better.
The possibilities are really interesting, at least.
Yeah, and it's better than broken TV sets that we got from the Wii. So, like, would you rather break a $70 piece of cardboard, or, you know, a $500 television, or both?
Cardboard.
So yeah.
Here's another thought about the cardboard. I mean, the Labo. I like the idea that people might be able to do custom builds.
Yeah. It's like a new form of modding, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of like they have like Lego channels on YouTube where you get to see people make their own creations. And I'm not really all about that, but I think it's kind of, the creativity potential for something like that is high. And I think people will end up creating their own things. So that's kind of exciting. Again, I'm not the target audience for this, and really kind of neither are you. But it doesn't mean we can't find some enjoyment in it if we were to get on board.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
On cardboard.
Yeah. I'm interested to see where it goes. You know, it just seems fun. I'm glad it exists. You know, even if I don't ever get anything personal out of it, I'm just glad it's a thing. It's a wondrous thing. So
yeah, it doesn't need to exist. I mean, we could have just as easily had no announcement, and that wouldn't have changed anything. But it exists. It may not be for us, but I think, yeah, it's a lot. It's a bit of fun. Nintendo is kind of just that kind of company where they will take risks and release weird things, and they're not afraid to do something that may seem stupid and then pursue it to its maximum extent, like the Wii U.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of that, I'm sure they're going to, like, we're starting to see some Wii U games just getting released on Switch. And how long do you think it'll be before Smash 4 comes to Switch?
Well, I'm happy that Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is coming to Switch. And I'm not even going to buy it. I'm just happy that my friends that have a Switch, like one of my friends got a Switch. He hasn't had a Nintendo system since SNES. And so when I'm excited to see his reaction. He loved Mario. You know, he's digging Zelda. He's playing some of the indie games. I'm excited for him and for people that have never had a Wii U to try some of the games like Bayonetta 2, like Donkey Kong, and hopefully more. To answer your question, I think Nintendo last year had an amazing year. I think it's time for them to... I think they need at least one big holiday game.
Sure.
And so whether that's going to be an Animal Crossing or something else, I don't know. But I think the Smash thing is a definite. I just don't know. What do you think, KY? Do you think we're going to get a Smash 4 port, or do you think we're going to get a brand new Smash? What's more likely?
I don't think we're going to get a brand new Smash. To me, it seems like too much work. And especially considering the squandered potential of Smash 4 on the Wii U. I think it's going to be either a port or like a deluxe, Smash 4 Deluxe, you know, where it's probably going to be Smash 4 with all of the DLC and like one additional character. Like realistically, that's what I see. It's gonna be Smash 4 Deluxe, all the DLC, one character, 3 new stages. You know, something like that is what I'm predicting.
So, do you think we're gonna get it this year? Because I don't.
This year, yeah, I could see it coming out holidays. I'm sure they've been working on it for a bit. You know, if it is a thing.
Naturally.
But maybe not. I don't know. I think we are gonna get it, but maybe not this year. So
Smash Brothers Wii U came out September 13th, 2014. So that's the Wii U version. Or hang on a minute. That might have been the 3DS version. Let's see. Let me check real quick. Regardless, this holiday season will have been 4 years since the previous Smash game came out. Now, traditionally, we usually wait between like 4 and 6 years between Smash releases. So I'd say the end of this year is likely, but the end of next year is also likely. If we get a somewhat deluxe edition, I think this year will be fine. But if they go for a new one, or if they do more than just your average deluxe, then next year.
Okay.
I wanted to mention, like, okay, so you have, they didn't call it Smash 4, they called it Smash Brothers for 3DS and Smash Brothers for Wii U. So if they wanted to, they could take that format and just apply it to the Switch,
Right.
and call it Smash for Switch, and it'll be, yeah, the same core game, maybe a couple of additional modes, a character or two, like the Inkling, maybe an ARMS character, Tingle, Waluigi, please, and also maybe all of the stuff, like all the levels from the 3DS version and all the DLC, kind of like what they did for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe,
Right.
but with a bit more.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, me too. I'd be cool with that. Yeah. So, what games have you been playing lately?
I guess I've been more Skyrim on the Switch.
Are you excited for Skyrim 2?
I raised the argument that it's now too profitable for them to go back to the Elder Scrolls moniker, so now they just have to keep releasing Skyrims from now on.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't imagine how pissed people would be. They have a Nintendo Direct and they're just announcing Skyrim 2. Switch exclusive. Be great.
With the voice actor that voices every character. The Jarl is going to release Skyrim 2.
Narration by Sting.
Will you walk with me?
That'd be great.
Sorry.
There's actually an indie game. The reason I brought that up, there's an indie game that apparently hired Sting to do some voiceover work. And like, that's just so baffling to me for an indie studio to, like, how much would they have to pay? Like, how many lines do you think he has? You know, the game
Sting of the Wolf.
What was that?
Sting of the Wolf, it's called, I think.
What, the game?
Where the water tastes like wine is the name of the game, but it says here the character is called Sting of the Wolf or something.
Oh, I didn't look into it that deeply. I knew what the game was, and I knew that they hired Sting, which I wonder.
He's hot with the kids.
Let me see, what other games did they come out with? Where the water tastes like wine. My loud ass new keyboard.
Yeah.
Let's see what else they came out with. Nothing. And Pixel Galaxy, Luna's Wandering Stars, Once Upon a Coma. Like, nothing I've heard of. Or
I'm sorry, but am I not supposed to laugh when I hear Once Upon a Coma?
I laughed a little bit too. I felt bad, but I did. But yeah, no other, as far as I can tell, like no other major hits or anything where it would give them Sting money. I don't know. That's weird.
Yeah, it's a strange thing to, again, because Sting isn't exactly on everybody's mind right at the moment.
Yeah, it's not exactly, like, it's a marketing move that is not really, like, not functionally, but that's clearly, like, kind of what it's supposed to be, just to have that name attached to be, like, featuring Sting.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. If Skyrim 2 has, like, a Sting narration, then, you know, all 5 police fans that are playing video games these days, including me, would be very excited.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I think they should just do Fields of Gold as the theme song this time around and just give them the Oscar, give them the Grammy, whatever they, you know, that's fine. We did the Dovahkiin song. Now it's Fields of Gold. Someone once described, you might find this funny. Someone, I think it was Joe, my friend Joe, described Sting's solo career as he's been trying to hit the mark of Fields of Gold for his entire solo career, but he hit it the one time right in the bullseye, Fields of Gold, and every other like attempt just missed the mark.
Sure.
And so I kind of, that makes me appreciate Fields of Gold a lot more, but it makes me think like, holy shit, Sting, what are you doing?
I think
goes and plays a fucking lute.
Yeah, I think there's a fair amount of like artists like that. Like the one that comes to mind for me is Paul Simon, which I don't know if you listen to Paul Simon at all.
I like his stuff.
But like Graceland, perfect album. Will never get anywhere close ever again, no matter how hard he tries. You know.
That doesn't have Kodachrome on it, or does it?
No, it actually doesn't, I don't think.
That's my favorite Paul Simon song, so speaking of cameras from before. But yeah, I don't know what there goes Ryman Simon. What a name for an album. Jesus.
Yeah, and he comes out with, he's had a fair number of albums. It's just like Graceland's the only one anyone knows or talks about. But then again, you know, it was probably a bulk of the stuff was not during my time. So I could be wrong. I mean, maybe there was a time where it's like, oh, new Paul Simon album, you know?
Yeah, maybe. We're in a different time these days now. And, you know, it's hard to really, you don't hear too much. Like I heard Robert Plant's new solo album and I was like, yeah, I like Robert Plant. I remember them Zeppelin. And I listened to it and it's like, okay, I like his solo stuff too, but it's very experimental, believe it or not. And yeah, I don't know anyone who was like, oh shit, new Robert Plant album. But
yeah, it was all the IED Zeppelin fans were excited for that. So
well, I mean, yeah. But anyway, so that's what I've been playing lately. Fields of Gold by Paul Simon.
Cool.
No, I'll just Skyrim is just fun to stream. It's glitchy, it's silly, but it's kind of nice to have it portable. And I play it a little bit here and there. I kind of fell out a bit with it, but they've been very fun streams for me because every time I play without fail, 2 to 3 or more major glitches will happen. So I love that. It's been a fun experience. I'm good at that.
Yeah. I also picked up Skyrim around Christmas and started a new character where I was like, okay, I always go like stealthy ranger, you know, I think everyone does. So I told myself I'm going to just do something I've never done. I decided to go full mage because like I've just never, in like any game, I tend to just never go mage. So I did. And it's really, really boring as a full mage.
I was going to say, yes, I've heard that.
It's bad. Like you get new spells occasionally that will be more powerful, and that's your like way of getting quote unquote new equipment, because 95% of the loot that you find is just worthless, whereas a normal character, it's only like what, 75-80%. So it's like any remaining interesting loot is now also uninteresting and does not apply. It's just dull. So like I stopped playing. I'm probably gonna go back to it someday, and when I do, I'm going to do some really weird shit. Like, I'm going to do, like, two-handed, like, necromancer or something, you know? Just something.
Yeah, conjuration's fun.
Yeah, just something to just really change it. And even still, I think the reason everyone goes Stealth Ranger is probably because it is the most interesting way to play that game, you know?
It is. People tend to get funneled into that because you find the rewards far outweigh the negatives with it. And it also kind of covers over the sloppy combat system. Because you know, let's face it, hand-to-hand in combat and melee combat in Skyrim is not exactly Breath of the Wild. No, it's just you go up to the thing and you hit it a bunch and then you run away, you cast a spell, eat a potion, and then keep trying, and it just feels clunky and weird. And I think that's, you know, it's fine for what it is, but I think after playing games with better combat that do similar things, really the way to play the game and not feel that flaw as much is to do the sneaky archer.
Sure.
So
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how they would fix it, but I think one of the reasons too is the game throws all these arrows at you, and like it's just like, I guess I could shoot some arrows, you know, and that's kind of where it
and then
starts.
before you know it, you're level 80 archer, level 100 stealth, and you're like, well, I guess I'm a sneaky archer again.
Yeah, I think that's how it starts. So
happened to me too. This playthrough, I'm kind of a two-handed, like dual wielding expert at the moment, and I want to go further with that. I'm doing conjuration a bit, but I wanted to avoid stealth as much as possible, and now I'm level 80 stealth. So I shoot good. Well, I don't shoot that well, but I try to shoot good with my bow, and it's a bit of fun. It's just kind of cool because, again, I never played the whole game. I didn't do all the quests. I didn't do any of the DLCs. So being able to play it portably and then to stream it a little bit, and also to experience the Dawnguard quests and maybe the Dragonborn quest soon, it's a nice thing to fill in the post Breath of the Wild lull.
Yeah.
Lull.
What else have you been playing?
Well, a couple things. I'm going to say that I tried Dusk, which is like an old school Quake. So it looks, the graphics are shitty on purpose. I think they're fucking great for, what they are. And it looks like Quake and Doom a little bit, and like you're killing cultists and weird like demonic like scarecrows and stuff. I played through almost the first full campaign, like, because there's 3 acts like in the old FPS days.
Sure.
It's a lot of fun, man.
Yeah.
It's really good. You got secrets, you got cool enemies, cool weapons, fast combat, and I streamed it. And then I played a little bit on my own, and I enjoyed it, and I thought it was like a nice throwback. And that's really all it is. It doesn't do a whole lot terribly new, but as a throwback to the great fast-paced arena shooters from the early to mid to late 90s, it's like, wow, this is cool.
Sure. Yeah. And I know the game now that you're talking about it. I remember seeing like a trailer and being like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, I'll have to check it out.
High recommendations.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm gonna get it. You talked me into it.
I'll just mention another game that you might like. I had a bit of a problem with it. Iconoclasts.
Yeah, I've been playing it. Iconoclasts. Yeah, I actually watched the stream where you had the issue. I saw the dude tweet at you too, like, "Oh, I'm so sorry that happened."
I know. I felt really bad about that.
Yeah, I've been following. Like, Iconoclasts came out in like 2008. Like, there was a demo for a game called Ivory Springs, and I played it, and I was like, "Oh, this is really cool." Which at the time, very original game, and then they dropped an Iconoclast demo, which is pretty much the same exact demo, just in the more current art style. And I was like, this is really good. 10 years go by. Suddenly, I was still excited for it to come out, because I was like, man, this is finally coming out. Like, that's exciting. Like, I'm glad this thing actually happened eventually. But playing through it, like, the characters are charming, the writing's charming, the art's great. But like, and some of like the little puzzles and stuff are fun too, but it's just not like I don't know. There's not a special thing to it. It's hard to describe. It's just missing something to me.
Well, I agree. I mean, I didn't play too much of it. I'll say this, watching the Ivory Springs footage at the moment, it looks a lot more like Cave Story. So they kind of moved a little bit away from Cave Story, more into like maybe Metroid. I think that in my 45 minutes with the game before it soft locked and then I had to, stop playing, I enjoyed the gameplay. I thought it was kind of cool with the wrench and everything, but it wasn't blowing me away. It was fun. I think there's a lot more to it that I would enjoy, but I don't know, like, so when I played SteamWorld Dig 2, I wasn't sure it was going to become a full stream. I just streamed it once. I was like, I love SteamWorld Dig. Maybe this will grip me, and I want to stream the whole game on, and from start to finish. And I did. And that was SteamWorld Dig 2. This game, I played it. I got a lot of story. Here's where I think people were losing interest when they were watching. And here's where I was kind of losing a little interest. And this is no fault of the game. The writing was pretty cool. The characters were charming. I like my Metroidvania games with less of a story, where I can fill in the blanks. You know, give me some basics, allow me to explore and discover the world on my own. And it is a very story-heavy game, and I didn't realize that it was advertised as such. So when I played it, I was like, wow, this is a lot of story, and I just started. So of the 40 minutes or 45 minutes I played, half of that was me reading.
Sure.
So, again, personal preference entirely. That said, I think it is a really cool game, and I wish the developer luck. He seems like a great guy, and I think the game's going to go far, and word of mouth is going to help it. But I don't think I'm going to stream it. I think it's just going to be something I chip away at on my own time.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And, like, the thing is, you can have a lot of great story without it being overbearingly texty. Like, Cave Story is a really good example, because that eventually does kind of blossom into a bigger story, which at the beginning is very minimal and stays even fairly minimal throughout. Like, where the story beats are brief. They're high impact, but they're brief. Whereas Iconoclasts, especially at the beginning, it gets a lot better right where you stopped, unfortunately.
Damn.
Yeah. After that point, it does open up more into just like gameplay. But that first like intro sequence, it's definitely pretty heavy. A lot of text, a lot of exposition, and without even saying a ton, I guess, you know, without revealing a lot about the world all at once. But I think Cave Story is a good comparison. I don't think it's, it has like a Metroidvania skin without actually being a Metroidvania the same way that Cave Story is, you know, where it's fairly linear, but like the format is of a Metroidvania. I think Cave Story is a great comparison. It's very similar to that, just a bit more heavy on like navigating the environment and puzzle solving, whereas Cave Story is more about action, I guess.
Yeah.
Well,
that's a good thing to know.
The weapon system in Cave Story is just leagues better than the weapon system in Iconoclast, but Iconoclast is more about just focusing around the wrench, you know.
Right. Yeah, it seems like the wrench and the puzzles that you do with the wrench are more important than some of the platforming, and maybe not more important, but it's a huge integral part of the game. And also the shooting did feel kind of cool, but when I look back at the Ivory Springs thing, yeah, it looked a lot more like Cave Story. So, yeah,
and now that, you know, we're in an age where Owlboy came out, and that there's like that Metroidvania skin has evolved so much. Like when you see like hits like Ori and the Blind Forest, Hollow Knight, you know.
Still waiting for Hollow Knight on Switch. Can't wait.
Oh man, you're in for a treat. I liked it a lot. But yeah, point is, I feel like Iconoclasts. And I can't blame it. It was literally one dude making it that took so long. But yeah, if it had came out, you know, about 5 years sooner, it might have had a better impact than it does these days. But I mean, it's still a really good looking game. It feels great. You know.
Yeah, tight gameplay.
Yeah, like there's still a ton going for it. It's just not quite this like new fresh thing that it gave me the feeling of when I first played the demo about, you know, 8 years ago or so.
Yeah. Well, it was a good shot. I mean, maybe I'll get back into it and try it out, but so far it was worth a shot. It was worth playing for a little bit. I wanted to mention, and you're going to laugh at me as most people have. I've also been playing, get ready, Call of Duty World War II.
No, what's funny about that? It's World War II is very serious.
It is. I mean, then you get into the multiplayer, and it's like the least historically accurate thing ever. Especially now. I mean, it already was with the wide variety of characters you could create. I mean, granted, it's an arcade mode. It's not supposed to be historically accurate. The single player is more accurate to World War II, and I'll talk about that in a second. I'm not going to go into too much detail about this game because really there's no need to talk about it. But they added prop hunt. So now you're in a World War II setting and you have a bunch of like sandbags and like barrels running around throwing flash grenades. It's probably disrespectful. But it's happening.
It's funny. I'm sorry.
Here's why I started playing it. Okay, so I have no love for the Call of Duty franchise since Modern Warfare 2, which was almost 10 years ago. And I don't like the style of game. I haven't played a campaign from that series since Modern Warfare 2. But the other issue is I'm a big World War II kind of buff in some ways, and I love the World War II setting, and historically it's very fascinating to me. I love the weapons.
Mm-hmm.
So I was sitting, you know, a buddy of mine, VDub, did a stream of Call of Duty World War II multiplayer, and I was like, that doesn't look too great. And then I thought, well, what if I play the single player? So I tried it, and it's as predictable as you'd expect. You can't move up until you shoot everybody. You got to follow your allies, and it's kind of boring and slow, and there's a lot of cover, and the story makes me laugh because it's so cliche.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna get back home to my wife because it's my duty, it's my honor.
Yeah.
I'm just a simple country boy. That's why I got to kill these Nazis. So there's that, but I love the setting, and I feel like visually it's nice. It sounds good. The weapons have a nice heft to them. It's a fun shooter. So I played through all of the single player, which isn't even that much. It was like 6 or 7 hours of gameplay, and it was short and sweet to the point where I didn't feel like it overstayed its welcome. There's a part where you're in a tank that didn't really work for me. There's a part where you're in a plane that really didn't work for me. Mm-hmm. But when you're on the ground and you're just shooting dudes in the face, and you're going through these like Private Ryan / Band of Brothers, even an Inglorious Bastards kind of setting where you have to do a stealth mission, which Mark Brown talked about on his Game Maker's Toolkit channel, and saying it was a good mission. He really enjoyed it. And I agree. I felt like there was a little something extra going on where you had to like memorize these papers and pretend to be another person. So Sledgehammer developed this one, and you know what? I wasn't totally disappointed. I thought the single player was pretty decent, and it was mainly because of the setting. So yeah, here I am playing a fucking Call of Duty game. Geez, how'd this happen? And I didn't completely hate it. I thought it was okay.
I imagine that most of the single player campaigns in any given Call of Duty game is fine, you know? Like, for just like stupid shooting action, they do what they do probably better than most, you know?
Yeah.
It's just
it wasn't
just
Doom.
oversaturated themselves, you know? But yeah, it's not like something special like Doom was.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure none of them are bad necessarily. It's just
they're fine.
Yeah.
They get the job done.
Yeah.
But you know, it's not until you play a game like Doom that you realize, oh, this is good.
Yeah.
So
yeah, man, Doom 2016 was excellent. Man,
you been playing anything else?
Say again?
Have you been playing anything else? Or?
Oh yeah, I've been playing a couple things. So the big one, I sank probably a good like 30 hours in the last like 2 weeks. Was Slay the Spire. Have you heard of this?
The card game.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Oh, it's good. It's just so basically you're climbing this giant tower, which, you know, tends to be the setting I like in my games apparently. You're climbing this tower, encountering enemies, getting loot, and loot is usually either like a relic, which a relic is kind of like a passive essentially. Like, it's just something that is always in effect. It might be like you draw an extra card at the beginning of battle, or every time you discard a card, you deal 3 damage to an enemy, or something like that, you know. Extra health, whatever. Then the other big form of loot is just cards. And it's like this kind of like drafting style where you win a battle, it presents 3 cards, and you get to pick one to add to your deck. Then, like, you might find ways to get rid of cards permanently, so you're just refining your deck, like finding things that synergize with one another. And it does it really well, like just the way that enemies have very distinct tactics where you need to figure out like their patterns and how to overcome them. And just like from a character building sense, you know, like you, depending on the cards you find, you kind of hone your deck to be a certain style. Like, say you find a lot of poison cards early, and then you find a card that lets you, you know, triple the poison that's on an enemy. And you find a card that lets you play any skill twice. So say you poison up an enemy, You play that thing that lets you play a skill twice, and then you play the triple card, so you're essentially like 600% poison what they currently are. Like synergies, you know, like that. So it definitely appeals heavily to like the kind of Magic the Gathering like play styles and deck building kind of thing, but it's extremely accessible. Really simple tutorial, really simple mechanics. It's like Hearthstone, but like a rogue kind of twist where like you need to kind of optimize when you're finding loot, when you're trying to face an elite enemy, but the elites drop relics, so they're worth facing if you think you can do it. When you heal, you know, that's where the big choices are. Aside from the drafting, is just figuring out what stages to go through. And it's just extremely well balanced. It's very addictive in a good way. It's just a really, really well done game, and it scratches that itch really well.
You know, it's one of the most viewed games on Twitch lately.
Is it?
I was checking. Yeah, I was checking the games because like Fortnite overtook PUBG, you know, recently, which is crazy. I didn't expect that. And then I see here's the top games at the moment. Sea of Thieves. Oddly enough, I wanted to talk about that in a little bit.
Okay.
But you have Fortnite and PUBG and Subnautica. Those are the big ones. Slay the Spire is in like the top 15 at the moment, and it was higher. It was like in the top 10 last week. So this game kind of made a bit of a splash.
Yes. Yeah, and I really recommend it. It is extremely good. Now, like, obviously, if you hate cards, don't get it. There's no point.
I like cards.
It's still a card game. You know, it's still a drafting card deck building thing, and nothing's going to change that. But if you are anything into the concept of that, I think this is one of the games to do it best in a long time. Can't recommend it enough. I've just been having a blast with it, and it's going to be leaving early access soon, so that's kind of cool. So yeah, I've been playing a ton of Slay the Spire. Cool. Today I picked up... did you have any questions about that game before I move on?
No, I was looking at some footage of it, and I'm not sure. I don't love the art style of the encounters.
Yeah.
It's a little bare bones, but I guess that's kind of not the point.
It's underwhelming in a way. I mean, like, the art and the static art is great. Animation wise, like, when your character attacks, they literally just kind of, their sprite kind of inches forward, like, without any movement in, like, swinging your weapon or anything like that. There's like a screen effect, like you see a slash across the screen, but there's no like fluidity to what's going on. So it's very mechanically oriented. Like, if you're the type who wants to see the things that you're playing and like how the character actually, like how it's represented, you're not going to get any of that. It's just all the interest is mechanically speaking.
Okay. Yeah, that's something I might check out. I just finished Hand of Fate 2, which was a very long game, and it's, you know, card oriented, but not a roguelike in any way. So yeah, I mean, that could be something on the horizon for me, especially the way you and others have talked about it. It seems great.
And then today I picked up a game that just came out called Celeste. I always call it Celeste because I played an instrument in college for a couple of songs called a Celesta or a Celeste, and so whenever I see that name, I just say Celeste. So someone's gonna, just to get that out of the way.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I've been playing Celeste today, and it's extremely good as well.
Not that this means a whole lot, but I just noticed that game got a 10 from IGN. And it's like, you know,
yeah,
really?
It's been getting really good reviews, and so far, you know, I've almost nothing wrong with it that I can think of. I mean, the controls are great. The little backstory it's going on is intriguing. Not the star of the show, but it's enough, and it keeps it simple, which is good. Which, you know, Iconoclasts could take notes there. The platforming challenges, which is kind of the meat of the game. It's clearly like a Meat Boy kind of style thing, but more explory. Is like top notch, like extremely good, really well thought out. Lots of secrets, which I was racking my brain over a big one earlier. Like, I found something like huge, and I have no idea how to get it. So that's exciting. Good music. It's just like
I heard the music
point,
was really good. Yeah.
Yeah, every point of it is just totally top notch. Which this is the guy who made Towerfall.
Right.
The team that made Towerfall, I should say. The same guy that made an Untitled story, which was a Metroidvania, a Flash
with
Metroidvania.
An egg.
Yeah, with the egg, exactly. Did you play that one?
Yeah, I didn't beat it, but I remember really enjoying it when I played it. It's interesting to play as an egg in these trying times.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really good. I like just the theme of it, just climbing this mountain, like with like little towns and stuff that are settled on the mountain that all have their own little like local lore, I guess. Fairly charming characters, you know. Just it's good. I've played maybe 3 or 4 hours of it today and enjoyed the hell out of it so far.
Too many games. There's just too many games to keep up with, man.
Yeah.
I was watching a video of it earlier and I thought it looked great, and it did remind me of Meat Boy and a little bit of like 1001 Spikes and just the
Sure.
art style.
Yeah.
Kind of concise, simple, really easy to kind of visually parse what's happening. And then you have the tower climb, sorry. That whole thing is going on there too. And I know you love them towers. You like to climb towers.
Dude, I love climbing shit.
Do you know what else is part of a tower?
What?
A spire.
Yeah. No, how weird is that?
I know.
Something about towers, they turn me on. But yeah, I was gonna say it reminds me a hell of a lot of The End Is Nigh, which I'm sure you've heard of. I don't know. Did you play The End Is Nigh?
Never played it, but yeah, I know what it is.
Yeah, where it's like that kind of like masocore platformer thing, but not quite as brutal. A lot prettier. Well, End Is Nigh looked great too. Very consistent, but like Celeste looks excellent. It's very colorful, very good art style. But it reminds me of that in that it does have like a linear set of levels, but also a lot of like side paths and secrets and things. Not quite as open like The End Is Nigh is, where that's just one like world, I guess. Just that like, the entire game is just a connected world. It's kind of broken up into chunks, but it's still within those chunks. There's a lot of secrets and exploring, so I like that a lot.
Sure. Yeah, it's like the IGN 10 makes me laugh a little bit because, you know, their scales are so weird, and so like it seems like they give 10s to a lot of. It just feels very generous, is what I'm going to say. Okay, I'm not really crazy about reviews, but that is a pretty impressive combination. Like I just did the Metacritic, and it's high. I mean, a game like this came out. I remember they were advertising it for the Switch at the last Direct, and even though there's only 4 reviews at the moment, it's at 90% Metacritic, and you know anything related to this game seems very, very positive. And it just I didn't think it was going to be that when I saw it revealed. I thought it was going to be like, okay, it looks like Meat Boy. It's going to be like a kind of a fun diversion. But yeah, it seems like it's something that people are really digging, and possibly like I wouldn't even say an evolution, but a solid pickup for people who like that type of thing. Platforming, tight controls, jumping around, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's not as off-putting or with the difficulty like Meat Boy is. Or even 1001 Spikes, I Want to Be the Guy. Like, it's not quite that level. Still very challenging, but very accessible. Like, it's a very chill game of its genre. Like, I feel like a lot of those games, they're all great. Like, I enjoy... That's just a genre I like. But they're all stressful. Something about Celeste does it different, where I don't feel stressed when I'm playing it. Even when I'm struggling and I get to a hard part, it's a very relaxing game. Like, it's a cool lay-in-bed chill. It just gives you a good vibe. I don't know. Hard to describe.
Cool. No, that's good to know.
So,
yeah, I was trying to think of some of the other stuff that I've been playing, but it's more of the same otherwise. You know, streaming is a different story. I streamed some Link to the Past randomizer stuff, which has been both fun and incredibly frustrating.
yeah.
But that's a whole story for another time. When you play randomizers, that's kind of the thing you sign up for, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's not exactly a well-designed like progression. You have to go all over the place to find the one thing you need so you can get to the other place.
Right.
So a little frustrating, but that's fine. I wanted to talk real quick about some of the news.
Okay.
Like not so much the news, but this is a story that I thought was interesting, and this ties into Sea of Thieves, which ties into my other point that there are too many games to play at the moment.
Yeah.
So, Monster Hunter comes out like tomorrow, the Monster Hunter World, which looks great, and I'm really interested in that. And then you have the Sea of Thieves closed beta, which is happening, and that's the pirate game that is made by New Rare, I'll say. And it looks cool. I gotta say, I'm kind of interested in it. I've heard good things about it. So that's something that I might pick up. I don't know. I haven't really played my Xbox for anything other than Blu-rays lately. So, maybe that'll be the one thing that'll get me to buy a game. However, interesting thing here. See, I felt like with all the attention the Switch is getting, and just, I have an Xbox. I'm not like someone that's going to shit on Microsoft just to shit on them. But I'll say that I haven't had any games I've been interested in from Xbox at all.
Nope.
And there's not a whole lot that you can't get on PC or something else.
Yeah. So
just the other day, Phil Spencer made an announcement that there's a subscription service that you could sign up for. Microsoft's Xbox game subscription will include the next Halo, Gears of War, and Forza on launch day. And Sea of Thieves is the first one available for that. And you'll get a bunch of like new games, old games. But this is the first subscription service that allows you to get first-party games the day they come out, like no questions asked. And I think it's $10 a month. How do you feel about that? I feel like that's, on a side note, I think that that's a move to say, listen, we don't have a lot going on right now, but here's this amazing thing that we're doing.
Yeah. How does that make me feel? Well, it starts me thinking about, I guess, like the investment, like the return on it. Like, how many new first-party games do you buy a month?
I guess it depends on the month, but maybe one
a month. So you drop maybe $60 a month on just whatever the new game is.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, because the way I see it, if you're not buying a ton of those first party new games, like I don't really buy a lot of those. I'll buy one from time to time, but me, I'm an indie guy, so
a little cheaper.
If I got
games.
it just to play Halo, Gears of War, probably just, I don't even, like, none of those would interest me. But let's say I was a big Halo fan, I subscribe, pay $10 a month, occasionally get a new game. Like, how often are they going to introduce new games? That's the question too. Yep,
and that's, I think, one of the failings with Microsoft lately, where they haven't released a lot of stuff that people have been clamoring over that's been exclusive first party.
After 6 months, if I didn't have a second game that I wanted to play in that mix, then I might as well just bought the game, because it's $60. If it's $10 a month, I guess if they can consistently introduce new stuff, like, I mean, it just kind of sounds like PlayStation Plus in some ways, except with brand new stuff, I don't know. It's hard to say how I feel about that, but I could pass.
Yeah, I'm not doing it. For the record, I'm, like I said, I've had Xbox 360. I have an Xbox One, and a couple games here and there. But I mean, I could just buy Halo. I'm not going to be playing a lot of the games that, like Forza, I have no interest in. I guess Gears of War is okay. I had the most recent one. I played maybe 10 hours of it at most. It's not like they're bad games. It's just there's so many games. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the ones that I've been interested in the past year, like last year was a good year for Nintendo games. Last year we got a lot of good PC games. Between the Nintendo and PC games that I played, I didn't really feel the need to buy Xbox games. So I didn't. So I feel like, again, this is a good thing in some ways, but I also feel like it's something that they're doing because they just they've been kind of ignored a bit since the Switch.
Sure.
And this is a good tie-in for the most recent big release for them, which is Sea of Thieves, which will be out in March. A game I'm genuinely interested in, and I hope it ends up being good. But we'll see. So that's a big story at the moment that I wanted to cover real quick. I also wanted to cover a couple of other little mentions, like Subnautica is finally leaving beta, and it came out like the other day in full.
Yeah.
Did you ever go for Subnautica?
Yeah, I played Subnautica early access. I want to say like a year and a half ago, 2 years. Could probably get an exact date, but it was early on, and I was like, this is really good and very promising. But I'm not the type who will continually play an early access game that, like, as it's being developed. I'll usually play it, enjoy it, and then say, okay, I'll try it again once it's out and see how different it is and see if I still like it and whatever. So Subnautica is definitely that for me, where I played it early on, enjoyed it, and I said, okay, that's cool. I'm going to wait and see what it's like on 1.0. And now it's out. I'm definitely going to be going back to it, like, really soon and trying to play through it and whatever. Just to see, like, and a lot of the stuff that will be new to me won't be new to anyone else. So that's kind of exciting. Like, I'm getting all those updates at once. I did the same thing with Darkest Dungeon. You know, I played that intensely for a few months when it first came out on early access. Then I just stopped playing it, and then the final release came out, and then I picked it up again. So that's what I'm going to do. Like, I'm definitely going to go back to Subnautica. I loved my time with it when I did play it when it first came out. And I want to see what it's like now. So,
yeah, I think that's me too. I stopped about a year and a half ago, and I'm excited to return to it and see where it's at. It's nice that it's finally out after all this time, 5 years in development, I believe. So that's a thing. I wanted to mention a couple of other things, like the Secret of Mana remake is coming out soon, and apparently it's being considered for the Nintendo Switch. We've talked about this. We talked about its somewhat lifeless visuals.
Yeah.
Interest yet or no interest?
Half C's, half chub. Kind of
okay.
Interest. I'm interested in the sense that it's just anytime they remake a classic, you're gonna want to see what it's like, even if you think it's trash. You know what I mean? Like, just to see what they do with it, even if it doesn't end up being good. But I also don't hold Secret of Mana as dear to my heart as, like, you do.
Yeah, it's kind of precious for me in a lot of ways.
Yeah, so, like, I'm more likely to just boot up my SNES Classic and just play through Secret of Mana again, because I don't think I ever beat it. I got a fair ways into it, but I definitely didn't beat it. So
right.
And even before that, like, I've had some other Super Nintendo games, or just older games that I never played that I've had on my mind for whatever reason. Like, I've been somewhere in the back of my mind, I've been thinking about Secret of Evermore, like, forever.
Oh yeah,
because it seems like it's up my alley, like a little hidden gem kind of thing.
Oh yeah. Love that game.
One of these days, I'm just gonna, when I don't have much else to play, I'm just say, you know what? Yeah, let's do Secret Evermore and boot up, an emulator or whatever.
That it's not as good as Mana, in my opinion. It feels like it's a little glitchier. It lacks some of the cohesion and some of the charm. But it's a hidden gem, and it's a great game. It has a really interesting story and some memorable locations. Like, some of the locations and parts of the worlds in that game stick in my mind, like, very, very intensely. So I think you would enjoy it. You just have to get past some of the antiquated stuff, and then you'd probably really dig it.
Sure. So yeah, but getting back to the remake, it doesn't look great, but I could see myself trying it. If I didn't just go straight back to Secret of Mana, I could probably, because I remember I've still experienced enough of it that I could appreciate the remake and say, okay, this is trash, or okay, this is okay.
Yeah.
The way it is, I don't know if it needs to exist.
Right. I feel the same way. I'm probably gonna stream it, and then, as I've said a million times, if it feels like poop, then I'm just gonna play the original.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But another piece of potential news, and this is just as of today, Square Enix has said that they considered bringing the remake to Switch, but they also considered bringing the collection, the Seiken Densetsu collection, to the West. Now, for those that don't know, there's a collection in Japan that was released, Secret of Mana and Seiken Densetsu 3, which is the follow-up, and it's a great game, was never officially released in the West. I played the translation. I never completed it, but I got like 90% through. Awesome game. I think that would be a huge thing for me. I don't know how many people would be into that, but I would love an official translation and to have both of those games together on one Switch card. That would be amazing.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I can get behind that.
So,
well, oh, sorry. No,
yeah.
go ahead.
Well, I don't want to throw off the topic, but it was a different game that's coming to the Switch. But go ahead, you first.
Oh, I was just going to move on to the new segment. But
all right. Before we do, I'll say that so this year, well, last year, there's a lot of success on the Switch, and it's no mistake, no surprise. People like playing games portably that you maybe wouldn't have been able to play otherwise portably. So people get excited when there are announcements for indie games. I know I get excited, like Hollow Knight, I can't wait for on the Switch. But Dead Cells is officially coming to the Switch later this year.
Oh, cool.
So that's a great game. I think we're going to see a lot of indie games coming to the Switch this year. I think we're going to get announcements every couple weeks of like, here's the other game, one from 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Sure.
Then there's going to be games that are coming out that are new that are also going to be on the Switch. It feels like a gold mine, and the sales for a lot of these indie games were very high on the Switch. So I think it's a good time to be a Nintendo fan and to have a Switch, because you're getting a lot of stuff, but you're also, you're not getting some of the more graphically intensive games. So it's kind of a bit of a trade-off, but I'm pretty happy with stuff like Dead Cells. Death Road would be cool on the Switch. So hopefully Spelunky 2 comes to Switch at some point. That would be great.
What would be cool on the Switch? What was that one?
Death Road to Canada.
Oh, I thought you said Dead Throat, and I was like, wait, what game was that? Say it again.
I'll make Death Throat. Yeah, I'll make Death Throat, and then I'll put it on the Switch.
Yeah, no, Death Road to Canada would be a great fit for Switch. Which I feel weird saying that. Like that's a saying. Everyone says it. This game would be great on Switch, and it's like, I think it's just a good console. Like when you think of, I can't think of a game that I'd be like, no, that wouldn't fit.
Exactly.
Like everything.
Because again,
it's
flexible. It's a flexible system, and it loads quick, and it's portable, and you have options. I think it's a meme at this point.
Yeah.
This confirmed for Switch is a meme, and it will be more of a meme in 2018. So, but anyway, so I just wanted to mention, and please God, release. Yes, I'm asking God for this one, but please God, release Spelunky 2 on Switch. Thanks.
Oh yeah, Spelunky 2. It feels great to say.
I can't wait.
So we cooked up a new segment like about 5 minutes before we started recording. We don't have a name for it. We could use a theme song if I guess amateur or not so amateur composers want to throw together something shitty that we can play before we do it for future episodes. Send them my way, and if it's extra stanky, I might use it.
Get it nice and stank.
It's basically a hot take segment where, without even doing it in advance, we're going to just Google search the phrase video game news, take the very first hit. So it's going to be a combination of recent and trending, because it might not be like literally this hour, but like 2 days ago or something. And here's the big story, if we haven't talked about it yet, and then we'll give our hot take on it. So Schlock Take.
Schlock Take.
Let's search video game news. The first hit from the BBC. Top video games depict unrealistic drugs use, says study. I'll link
Okay,
you.
so that's a bit of an awkward headline to begin with.
I think it's just a typo. It should just be drug use, unrealistic drug use, but it says drugs use.
Okay, so without reading through the whole thing, I want to go over some of the basics. Like, I think what this is trying to say is, so video games depict drugs unrealistically in the same way that maybe they depict flying unrealistically, which is to say they're video games.
Yeah.
There's a little pie chart. You see the pie chart? Isn't that wonderful?
How do in-game drugs affect play? They either 28% improve health, 40% disorienting, and 32% boost power.
Well, that's just sending the wrong message to kids. I wouldn't want to do drugs in real life and not get improved health and power boosts.
And get my power boosted.
Jesus.
So it's like, I guess what it comes to is like, if you were to put an analog to this pie chart to real life drugs, health improvement would be like vitamins. Power boost would be steroids, energy drinks, I guess. And disorienting would be like heroin.
Yep.
Or I guess, yeah, like crack, cocaine.
Yeah, like really debilitating
marijuana.
Drugs.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to do marijuana while in a vehicle. You might get debilitated.
Yeah, might get disoriented when what you really meant to do is boost your power.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You want to drive at level 7.
What also comes to mind is unrealistic drug use. Not what this article is getting at all, but I just think of like in a literal sense, like in BioShock, just taking a syringe and shoving it into your arm and taking it out and just doing that like every 5 seconds. Yeah, I'd say it's pretty unrealistic.
Yeah. Yeah,
Drink
I would
a
say
beer,
so too.
Immediately get drunk.
I wanna read a little piece of this article because I found a good part of it. Ever since Mario powered himself up with mushrooms, allusions to drug use have become commonplace. But as games, and the people who play them, have matured, so has the depiction of mind and body-altering substances. And then it shows a picture of Fallout with Jet, Mentats, and Buffout.
Yeah. It'd be cool if drugs in real life actually altered your body in like a cool way. Like, you know, you take some pills in order to gain an extra finger for like a couple hours. you know.
Why do you need an extra finger?
I don't know, playing piano. That's why.
It's actually, yeah, dude. Could you imagine like guitar chords with 6 fingers? You could make some like wacky like double jazz.
Yeah, or like you're going to a job
Super
interview.
jazz.
Drink this cough syrup. It will make you a foot taller for 43 minutes. You know. Body altering substances. So
well, Tommy Wiseau drinks Red Bull like 2 or 3 or 4 Red Bulls a day, and he looks like he's melting. So I don't know if that's a boost or if it's a negative, but at some point I believe Tommy Wiseau will be able to like liquidate and then turn under, like go under a door and then emerge on the other side and just be like, ha ha.
The Secret World of Tommy Wiseau.
Oh yeah, there you go. Good reference. Alex Mack. I remember that show.
Yeah, dude, I loved that show.
She did drugs, probably.
It was the radiation drugs that she did.
Oh yeah.
They forced her to do radiation. Top game genres for drug mentions. 20% shooter, 23% role playing, 5% adventure, 50% action. That's interesting. Like why do action games specifically mention drugs more than those other genres?
Well, I mean, it depends on what you'd consider a drug, too. Like, if they mention health pickup or power up or, like, a boost, like, I'm wondering if quad damage is considered a drug. You know, it's all about how you classify these things, because they mentioned mushrooms being a Mario thing. Miyamoto could have just as easily not had a mushroom. It could have been, I guess it could have been, I don't know, what like random thing. It could have been, I don't want to say a leaf because that was Mario 3.
It could
have been anything. It could have been a duck.
I was going to say a flower, and then I was like, oh, wait.
Fire flower. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, just the fact that leaves and mushrooms and flowers could be found in the wild as drugs, that doesn't mean that Miyamoto was like, and now let us have Mario take a drug.
They could have used something more thematically consistent with the world of Mario, with pipes and plumbing. They could have had like bleach or dishwashing detergent or something just pop out of the
Tide Pod.
Yeah. Yeah. The
Topical.
Tide Pod. It alters your body and your mind. It gives you a health boost, a power boost, and you can jump higher.
I'm down. No, dude, listen. I've seen the videos. There's some actual numbskulls in the world that have actually eaten those, which is amazing. But anyway, the thing about this study, this article, is that I kind of have this weird idea that there almost feels like there's some kind of like semi-agenda, you know, of like we got to make the point that drugs, like it feels like a good news story for like a bit of outrage
for a non-video game, mostly aimed towards non-video game people, you know. I think
that's what it feels like.
Yeah, because like your average gamer, they have the kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not
wherewithal.
I want to say lexicon, but that's not right at all. It's just a certain like know-how of games that drugs serve a different function in games. Well, do they? I guess. Man, now I'm questioning everything. I was gonna say they serve a different icon, you know, in games than they do in real life. Like, you take drugs in real life to alter something about yourself. In video game, it's like something, I don't know, I guess it's not so different. Every time I put it together in my head, it's like, here comes the same sentence.
Yeah, but check out this. In Fallout, when you take, like, jet and stuff, you actually do get negative side effects as well. Mm-hmm. You might get a temporary boost, and then, you know, they tried to be a little more realistic. But jet doesn't exist in real life. I mean, it's based on some stuff that exists, but then again, Fallout is set in a basis of real life to some extent. So,
sure.
I think it's just this is, yeah, it feels like manufactured outrage, but I'll say I don't even know what the point of this article is. I guess we'd have to read the whole thing, which would be kind of boring on the podcast. There is one more pie chart.
Yeah.
Which I don't understand. Maybe you can help me with this. Video game drugs, real or fiction? And then it says 38.18% are fictional, and then 60.91% are real, with a little 1% for both. Does that mean that in video games 60% are real, like as in there's like crack and cocaine and what?
Yeah, it's weird taking that question out of context, you know. But I think what the article, because what it did examine a little earlier as I was browsing, is that like what it's saying is that 38% of the drugs in video games are fictional. 60% of the drugs referenced in video game are real. Or I guess it's a percentage of games that include those things. Most games are either completely fictional drugs, completely real drugs. It's clearly a choice on the developer on some ethical level, I guess, because only 1% include both real and fictional drugs. Like, for example, Skyrim uses probably the worst fake drug name I've heard in my life in this article. It's called skooma.
Skooma, yeah.
Which would, I don't know, I don't think I'd want to take skooma no matter what it did to me.
I don't like the name of it, yeah.
Whereas
some drug names you just don't want to fuck with because the name is, no thanks.
Yeah. But yeah, that's
I also can't...
No, go ahead.
I can't think of a lot of games that have, you know, crack, meth, and heroin by name in them. Mm-hmm. But maybe I'm playing different games that they're doing research upon. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great question, too. Like, the source here is the Archstone Recovery Center. I wonder what games that research team pulled to come up with that pie chart, you know?
Yeah, it's a weird question, and you know, I don't really fully understand it because, again, I've not played a game where you do heroin and you are stronger. You know, I don't know where these games are, and I've been playing games almost every night for 8 years, you know, for 4 hours or less or possibly more. So I don't know what games these are, but it's a fun article to talk about and to think about because, you know, I didn't realize this was a thing. I never thought about it, and I never considered the mushrooms to be drugs. I just thought, well, I guess I did, you know, I mean, that's the obvious correlation for jokes, right. But like, you know, taking the jokes away from it, it's just Mario eating a big dopey mushroom and he becomes big. I don't know.
He gets big. Big. Yeah. Melange. Yeah. Interesting article.
Let's talk about so there's you know, Google has the top stories, and they go from left to right, and there's 3 of them. So the most recent one, the one we actually covered already, was the Xbox free games, right? So we don't need to talk about that. But there's another article, Brilliant but Cruel. This insanely difficult video game will make you want to smash your phone. And it's an article from the Washington Post. You know, I think video games when I think BBC and Washington Posts, of course.
Yeah.
But it's basically, I've seen the video. This is a viral video. This is I Want to Be the Guy.
More or less.
But it's a different thing, but very similar.
I think the distinction is that the game's design very clearly predicts, at least, okay, so just to give it some background for the listeners, the game is called Trap Adventure 2. It's very typical, like Vinny said, I want to be the guy. There's platforms, spikes, you're a little dude, you jump onto shit, spikes fly out, how could you have predicted it? Like that kind of unfair platformer, like intentionally unfair. I think what the distinction with this game that makes it more interesting is that it makes an active effort to predict how you're going to change your strategy. Like you jump on the platform, spikes come out. Okay. So then you die. Second life, you jump on a platform, then jump back. And then the platform instead like falls off onto you because the game knew that you were going to do that. If you watch this video that's going around, it just progressively, every time the player like tries to counteract whatever just happened, the game is already designed to account for that. And I Want to Be the Guy does that to an extent, but not as overtly as this one does, I think.
Yeah, this is also a cell phone game, so it's a little bit more you know, accessible and mainstream. But also, I think this particular video that they have, which went viral, it's got 11 million views. So I think the Post picked up this story just because of the viral nature of it.
Sure.
And you know, again, yeah, this is worse than I Want to Be the Guy, but for someone like me and you, people like you and I who have seen I Want to Be the Guy streams and runs and have played the games, this level of frustration isn't really that new.
No.
I think it's new for a lot of people though, and that's why this article and this video blew up.
Yeah.
So it's like, because they compare it to, it may look like Super Mario Brothers,
Yeah.
but it's really not.
Yeah. No, I mean it's the article's not aimed at us. To a lot of people, this is the kind of thing one of my fucking coworkers will be like, "Hey, you see this video, bro? Check this out." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's clever."
It's fine.
Like it's not something I've seen 10 years ago, just to hide my power level.
Yeah, you don't want to let them know your power level, because then the jig is up. Then they're going to start asking you about all kinds of things, like how do you get the Triforce in Ocarina of Time? You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I get why it's an article, but you're right that it's not news, not the least bit.
No, it's a viral video that in the gaming world is news to people, a couple people, I guess.
Yeah.
So
now, one thing I like about the drug article is at least it's kind of like a study, like it's attempting to make a story, you know?
Yeah.
Like to make
there may be an agenda, but at least it's a story.
It doesn't even make a point. Like it doesn't even go out to say drugs are bad. It's just saying here is an analysis of the use of drugs. Like it has a thing where it's not just like here's this week's viral video. This is news, you know.
True.
So it's just something original. Someone was like, "Hey, I could write an article about drug use in games." Sure.
True. Yeah, I didn't. When I say agenda, I suppose that's more of an assumption, because I've, you know, for years there's been lots of doom and gloom about video games and, you know, violence in video games. There was a recent study that I could reference that I don't know exactly where it came from. I'd have to do some searching, but there was a recent study I saw that says there's no correlation between violent video games and violent people. And so if that study has any accuracy, it's kind of contradicting a lot of the mainstream, you know, doom and gloom that we've heard about video games, that you play a violent video game, you're going to want to go out and do some skooma and then shoot somebody in the eye with a stapler.
Yep.
Yeah.
All
so I guess I'm just used to the mainstream finding a way to pick on video games, and you know, gamers are lazy and violent, you know, but this didn't seem... You're right, it didn't have that point. It just kind of made some weird pie charts.
Yeah.
So
it took a bunch of statistics. I don't know. I mean, I guess we got to read the article more in depth, but
maybe.
So So yeah, that was our new skit. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Leave a comment below. Like the video if you didn't like the skit. Subscribe if you liked it.
But that means, yes, KY is right. Like if you didn't like it, and then subscribe if you did. Very good.
Excellent. You want to do some listeners' mails?
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay. So this one comes from Fatium. He asks, can you go more in depth about Vinesauce's magnum opus video titled Cooking with Vinesauce? As I know that KY was the cameraman during the video, I'm curious about what happened before shooting it, while shooting it. Just why does this video exist?
I'll tell you this. I don't remember too much of it. But I had just moved from where I was to where I am, and so I had this nice new kitchen, and I had KY over and Kanome, and I wanted to make them some pizza rolls, kind of as a joke, but also because, you know, you have guests over. It's a pleasant thing to do, to make some food. And
I just imagine, like, you know how like certain families will have like a bowl of like candy or some shit like out on the table when they have guests over. For you, it's just a greasy ass bowl of pizza rolls. Here, come into my abode, and
that's
just
accurate.
On the table there. Anyway, go on.
No, that was pretty much accurate. I kind of feel like we had this. We were hanging out, you know, and I made you some pizza rolls, and I guess we were live, and I said, you know what, let's film this. Let's do a skit. There might have been alcohol involved, and the joke was a little Red Letter Media-esque of, like, you know, making the pizza rolls, but going further and then dripping juice on it. I don't remember why, but yeah, it was just to be a jerk and do something stupid, I think.
Yeah, we just wanted some pizza rolls. Not that complicated.
Yeah. So do you have any extra outstanding memories about that?
No.
Otherwise?
None. Just your long ass arm. That image came from that video. So that's almost the true nugget of treasure that we still enjoy to this day, is that fucking image came from that video.
Yeah, my super long arms. That's correct. Yeah.
It was because you did those pizza roll drugs. They altered your body.
Oh yeah.
And question number 2 from Fatiums asks, are you guys into the band King Gizzard and Lizard Wizard? They're a really good psych band from Australia, etc., etc. I know you are, right?
I talk about them quite a bit. They were my most, according to Spotify, my most listened to band of 2017.
Which, you know, 5 albums in 2017 is insane.
And I listened to like two and a half of them. That's too much. I couldn't keep up.
Yeah, I've listened to probably about 3 songs, maybe like twice, and I always was like, wow, this is really good. And then I just kind of don't put them on my portable devices, don't throw them on when I'm doing other stuff, and I don't know why, because I really dig what I've heard. So I like how they're a bit more on the progressive side, you know, compared to a lot of psych rock that I hear, which is more just like, I guess, predictable.
Yeah, I love Pond, I love Tame Impala, and they're a little psych rock, and they're from Australia too, but they're, you know, a little bit more pop oriented, I would say, in the sense that, like, especially Tame Impala has gone a little dancier, and Pond is a little bit more like classic rock, Radiohead lately, I guess. Anyway, they were the best show, one of the best shows I've seen in the past 5 years, Pond. But anyway, King Gizzard, great. I enjoyed that Microtonal Banana album. I didn't like Murder of the Universe. I liked the one after that a bit, and I didn't listen to the other 2 because I can't keep up. But essentially, they're a good band, and I really like them.
This next one is from Escudero. It says, hey, KY and Vinny, I was wondering if you guys could give a brief synopsis of your college life. Also, do you have advice for getting through struggles of college?
You want to start with that one?
Sure. So, aside, I've talked a lot on my stream and I think in past episodes about how college is kind of a scam for 80% of the people who attend it, but you're in it. So let's just accept that and say, how do you get through that? My synopsis, you know, I went to class, studied, got good grades, met a lot of people, you know, had a great time socially. and kind of learned to be independent because I was never really independent until I was out in college and on my own. So, so that was college for me. It was actually a really good time, despite wasting a ton of money.
Yeah, that's about right.
Now, my advice for getting through the struggles of it, first off, if you're, what a lot of people don't realize is that they are spending a ton of money to be there. I think it's easy to not feel that way when all that money is coming from like loans or who knows what. If you have a scholarship, you know, where it's paid for, great, then I guess you can disregard this. But for most people, you're spending an ass load of money that you're going to be paying off for a long time. So, you know, go to your classes. Don't waste it. Go to take a major that you think you're going to use, you know. Don't just do it. Don't just do those because you're at college and make the social side the main thing. It should be the other way around. Still have a social life, but don't forget why you're there, I guess.
I think that's great advice, and I also have a similarly bleak view about college these days, because I know people still paying off student loans well into their 30s, myself included. Only recently did I manage to make the majority of the payments, you know. So for a lot of people, that's a debilitating, and there's that word again, debt that takes a very long time to pay off, and it's just worse and worse and worse. I wish I was a little more assertive, and I wish I had gone away for college, because I think that would have been better for a number of different things, for my own sense of individuality and freedom. But I ended up going someplace local, and it was very expensive, and I didn't care. I fucked up a lot in the early couple semesters, and it wasn't a college that offered a major that I really wanted to do. So I kind of had to just go with whatever, you know, I had to go with whatever it was that I could do, and which English and communications. However, the series of events that happened from college introduced me to my best friends, and eventually the professor that got me the television station job at a community TV, where I learned to edit videos, where I then applied that to YouTube, where I then said, let me start streaming, and then et cetera, on and on, until you get to where I am now, which I very much like where I'm at now. So the point is, do it, don't squander it, try to make the best of it.
Yeah.
In my case, I regret some of my decisions, but they also led me to where I am now. So I'm not going to start going back and saying, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that, because various rivers lead you to the sea, I think.
Very good. Last thing I would say about that too, just because I answered someone's Twitter question recently about how do you make friends, because that's a big thing too, is that not everyone is socially assertive. They get to college and they're just overwhelmed. They're like, how the fuck do I meet people? I'm just in my dorm the whole time. I'm miserable. One thing I'll say is just try to make like one friend, even two, like two or one, because once you've made those first couple friends, like you become friends with their friends, like friends of friends, and then it just kind of explodes naturally from there. So try to go to a club, you know, recognize someone at the caf, just say, hey, you want to eat together, even if they're like, no. Like, that's the worst that could happen. It's not so bad.
No is not so bad when you consider we are mortal.
Hey, you want to eat together? We are mortal, fellow scholar.
Yes, in that case, fellow human, I will eat with you. I will consume pant with you.
So this next one, we're going to get a little bit deeper still, and then back into the light stuff. This question is from Quinn. Who, it's a very long story, but the gist of it is that this person's in a long distance relationship with somebody very serious, like spend the rest of your life serious, but it's long distance. The problem is that this person, the too long didn't read, just says, my boyfriend wants me to visit him when he smokes weed and his friends do worse drugs. This makes me very uncomfortable and anxious. What do? Like, how do you deal with that? When you do not do drugs, but the person you love does, and yeah. Any advice for that, I guess?
This it's got a little serious. I'll say this. We're not that qualified to answer something like this. So if we don't give an answer that is suited for your situation, you know, we apologize. Is that fair to say, KY?
Yeah. No, I think so, because clearly we don't know all the details. I know a little more since I actually read it, the whole thing. But, yeah. I mean, we could probably give some basic advice. You're not going to like mine. I'm going to put it that way.
Okay. Well, I'll start with something that, you know, maybe seems obvious, but the devil is in the details.
Yeah.
So it depends on, I'm sure there's a lot of facets to this relationship that we're not aware of, that KY might have even a little bit more than me, but it's hard to get the full scope of a thing. So.
Yeah. Yeah, my advice, and again, you're going to hate my advice. It's really bad advice. Not bad, but just not what you're looking for, I think. But I would say to rethink that relationship. You know, it's going to sound awful as much as I'd be like, oh, try to make it work. To me, that is a very fundamental incompatibility. What's keeping the relationship together to me is the fact that you are apart. And if you want to spend the rest of your life with this person, you can't do that forever. Either you're going to have to change that person, they're going to have to change you. I don't know. If it makes you as anxious,
that's never good, by the way.
If it makes you as anxious and uncomfortable as you're describing, I don't see that lasting forever, personally. So, sorry to be a downer. That's how I feel. If you wanted to try to make it work, you'd have to talk to him about that. And that's communication is king in any relationship. You got to say, so here's how this makes me feel. Do you think you can stop for a bit or just do it when I'm not there? Or I don't know. You'd have to work it out. But I'd say communicate, you know, take some vitamins, drink lots of water. Don't, you know, sorry.
Well, he's taking his vitamins.
Yeah. Man,
you know,
very relevant question now that I think about it. Does he play a lot of video games? Can he inform us more if his video games influence him to do those things?
He's doing mushroom, skooma, and jet.
Yeah. But this person does have a bonus question, much more lighthearted. Bonus question for Vinny. Vinny, since you visited Jersey, what's your worst memory of it?
Just after the bridge is the worst memory every time, because when you're anywhere near like Newark or Elizabeth, it just starts to smell like raw sewage. It's pretty rough over in the industrial, like swampy areas. Also, I got lost before GPSs were a thing. Well, they were a thing, but I didn't have one. And I got lost pretty hard in Jersey because it's a very confusing state to drive in, because there's a lot of turns that you get off and you're done for 20 minutes. Like to get back to where you got to go. Yeah. It takes a while. And I didn't, you know, I'm not great with my navigation. I know New York fairly well because it's a little bit easier. The signs are easier, and Manhattan's just numbers and letters. But you have Jersey and it's like, well, I don't know where the hell to go. I mean, so I got lost in Jersey for a while. That was one of my worst memories. But once the GPS and phone navigation and stuff started happening, there was no problem anymore. And as for the relationship question, I mirror KY's sentiment. I'm a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking at? Fatalist, maybe? Not really. I'm a little fatalist. You know what I mean? Drinking out of cups. No, I'd say that, yeah, that sounds like a huge incompatibility. Listen, it's tough to try to change someone. I think change needs to come from within. And I think that there's nothing wrong with being single if, you know, if that's the thing that kind of makes you happy, being in that relationship, then communicate, be honest, be open, tell them how you feel. And if it's something that can't happen, then consider the alternatives and realize that life will not end. But also, maybe there's a chance that he'll understand and he'll say, you know what, you're right, I'm sorry this makes you uncomfortable, but maybe he'll figure out the drugs are more important than you. In which case you got your answer right then and there, and you're already you know, you got it. You don't need to do any more work. And then,
Yeah.
then you just hit the road, Jack.
Bonus question for KY: how the hell you deal with reading all these emails? My solution is only recording 2 episodes a year. No, just kidding. I'm just being a little jab at us.
A little fiddlisk.
A little fiddlisk. But no, there's not a ton of emails, to be honest with you. I mean, we're still a pretty small podcast. They do I usually we don't do the mail every episode, so we kind of build up over, a couple of months, and then we'll fire off a bunch. So, and even still, they're easy to kind of parse, okay, this is just trash, this is a good question, whatever. Sorry to the trash people if I answer your questions.
It's fine.
Yeah, so it's not a big deal.
Good luck.
Question from Liam: if someone famous like Obama made a game that has the same quality as you'd see in Greenlight, either bad to do you think people would buy it since it was made by a famous person?
I love the example. That's Obama making a video game.
Yeah. I think it's obvious
I think people give
would.
it attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might not be a smash hit unless it's actually a good game, but yeah, it's gonna sell. They would have no problem finding someone to publish it. It's and
yeah,
someone's probably gonna get offended by this, but it's like the AVGN game. If they were to make the AVGN game, but just take the AVGN name out of it, just make the same exact game, but just not attribute it to him or be his game, no one would care. Mm-hmm. Not to say it's a bad game at all. That's not what I'm getting at, because I have no idea. I didn't play it or anything.
I played it. It's pretty good.
Yeah. I'm sure it's fine.
But it would still just be a pretty good game in a sea of great and good games.
So,
I think much like Sting narrating a game, it'll get attention for that fact only, and then the rest of it will be the game's merits, whether or not it'll sink or swim.
This next question is from Inbo Googliax. They ask, what are your opinion on esports? And what is your favorite Mars Volta album?
We get that question a lot, the Mars Volta album question.
Yep. Tobias. Oh, here we go. Tobias asks, I really enjoyed the streams that the Vinesauce streamers make. Since I'm already writing to you, here's a question. Have you ever written any poetry or short stories? And if so, would you be willing to share some with us?
Well, I feel, did we skip over the previous dude's question?
No, it wasn't a real question. I was just playing.
Oh, you were?
Yeah. No one asked that again.
Jesus, KY. I thought that was real.
No, it wasn't.
Also, KY, how come Vinny plays music and you don't? That's the other.
Yeah.
That's the other one. Considering Vinny's a musician, I'm like, yeah, barely. I don't know how to read music, son. But anyway, yeah. This question is good, however. What was it again?
Have you ever written any poetry or short stories? If so, would you be willing to share some with us?
Well, as a musician that KY wouldn't know nothing about, I write lyrics. I've written some poetry, but it usually just turns into musical lyrics because I can't just write words on their own. I always like to have a melody to go with them. Never had the desire to write poetry, and just on its own. Not that I don't respect it as an art form. It's just not for me. Mm-hmm. That said, short stories I've written in the past. I did creative writing in college. I was good at it. I enjoyed it, and I haven't written anything in years though.
Yeah, no, same boat. I had a buddy. Actually, I still have a buddy who is a writer. That's what he does for a living. And he was publishing some magazine or something, really local, independent kind of thing. And he was like, hey, you want to write something for it? And I was like, sure. So I wrote a little blurb of a thing. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to pass on that. I was like, okay. But so that was my last real serious writing thing. And, I wasn't really offended at all. I'm not a writer. I think in college, like you, I did some creative writing for my required English classes and stuff, and I enjoyed it and got good grades and stuff. And I think I used to be better with words than I am now. But otherwise, no, I haven't really written anything in years. So
Okay.
So yeah, sorry to disappoint. Ben asks us, hey, wanted to know your thoughts on Blade Runner 2049. Was it as good as the original? Better? Thanks.
Wow, even when I'm not streaming, I still have to talk about Blade Runner every day.
Yeah.
The answer is, for me, I loved it. I've talked about it on stream a bunch. I'll go into more detail. I want to hear what KY has to say first.
I also enjoyed it a lot. I think it's almost unfair. It's one of those movies where you have to compare it to the original due to its legacy or its, its status. But I also feel like it's not trying to do the same thing. Like the original Blade Runner was almost more about the atmosphere, the environment. Like the plot was very basic on a lot of levels on the original one. Not a ton of twists or anything like that. It was right from the get-go. It's like you're hunting down these replicants, and that's it. By the end of the movie, it's still just Deckard hunting down these replicants. It grows a little bit, with Rachel and stuff, and asks some questions, but plot-wise, it's very simple. The new one, I feel, was more of like a mystery. Like it still had a fantastic atmosphere, still focused a lot on the environment and those things that the original is so well remembered by. But it does, I feel, focus more on actually building and moving as far as narration goes, or as far as a narrative goes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the thing about Blade Runner, the original, is the plot being so thin loses people. Where you have 2049, I read in the book The Art and Soul of Blade Runner 2049, which is like the official companion about how the movie was made. They said something like audiences have more of a capacity for information, so they were able to I don't know how true that is in comparison to the original, but let's just say they were able to do a little bit more and twist and turn a little bit and ask similar questions about what it means to be human while also exploring an actual storyline. People have described it as the greatest sequel ever, and I think I'm pretty close to agreeing with that, because Blade Runner being my favorite movie ever, I think this one's a little bit better. And I think that it doesn't make it my favorite movie ever, but it definitely, for nostalgic reasons, the original's probably always going to be my favorite. But I think that this is a great movie. I recently rewatched it on Blu-ray, so it was my second viewing, and it held up. I was mesmerized. And watching it a second time, you learn a couple new things. You pick up on some new things. It is a fucking great movie, and it's so good. The soundtrack is not as good as the Vangelis soundtrack, but I still think it's great. And I love the character Kay, very fleshed out, interesting character. I didn't really love Jared Leto. I feel like he was just doing his thing.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree with almost all of that. There are a couple things I'll say. One thing I really enjoyed was that Blade Runner explored what it means to be alive when the mind is not there, because in an artificial body. Blade Runner 2049 kept that, but also kind of took it another level, because they took the body away in regards to Joy, the hologram. Whereas the mind, I guess the AI was still there. So it's kind of cool where they took that dichotomy in the first movie, and then the second movie they said, let's continue that. What if we also take away the body? So that was kind of cool, just seeing them explore that. One thing that just kind of hit me every time it happened in the movie was how overused in other movies action is, shooting. That in Blade Runner 2049, you could probably count the number of shots fired from a gun in one hand or two hands,
Yeah.
Every time someone did actually shoot a gun, I was for a moment just whoa, it actually caught me off guard. And that was cool. It was just really effective, Yeah,
it was brutal, short double taps. You know, Kay had a deadly efficiency. And it just really worked. It was not an action movie, but the action was concise and brutal, and you knew what was happening. There was a good sense of spatial geography, and it wasn't just quick cuts, everywhere. It felt like a good well designed action scene, especially at the end. But I mean, some of my favorite parts of the movie are just like what's happening in the background, like in the casino when there's the Elvis show while they're fighting.
Yeah,
I loved that. Visually, it was stunning, and watching them fight to the soundtrack of Elvis was so great.
Yeah.
The little Sinatra moment when Kay looks in the thing and he sees Sinatra singing, I love that. The city looked great. You know, I just a great fun movie. You know what's great about rewatching it too? It's not about following the story necessarily, which is still very interesting, but you can just again take in the world. Denis Villeneuve is a master. He expanded upon the world that Ridley Scott created, but he did it in his own way, and he brought some new things to it. He brought new locations. He expanded the world, kept it where it needed to be, but 30 years later, and then explored a new story with new characters that tied into the original very, very nicely. It's a wonderful movie. I love it, and I'm so fucking happy that we got a Blade Runner sequel that not only didn't suck, but probably is better than the original.
Yeah,
that is, for me as a Blade Runner fan, I couldn't be more thrilled. That's one of the best moments of 2017 for me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, a couple more from Parker. Asks, what's your favorite piece of media spun off of a game franchise? That's a great question. It's one of those things where I know I have an answer, but I'm going to blank on it when someone poses the question to me. You know, like nothing springs to mind immediately. How
about the Mario Brothers Super Show?
Okay. Now, here's the part of the question I didn't read to you. Part 2 was, if Vinny answers the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, he is legally required to do the shitty Bender voice.
What? Oh.
Apparently. Hey, I don't make the laws, so.
Hey, Fry! It's me, Bender. I love that Mario Brothers show!
There's a bit of meatwad in there.
That was terrible is what that was.
But yeah, for spin-offs, like I like RPG spin-offs like the Mario and Luigi games, Paper Mario, if those count, I guess. Piece of media, does it have to be non-video game? Yeah, I don't know. I hear there's some pretty good video game books, although I've never really read any.
Yeah, there's like Halo books. There's there was here's a good one. There was a Legend of Zelda Link to the Past comic.
Yeah.
It's like a manga.
Yeah. Yep.
From a couple of years ago. Well, a couple of years ago. We're talking 1982.
Okay.
Yeah. So that to me was I love that it expanded the story and also kind of kept true to the game, and I loved it and I read it a lot. So that was a good spin-off.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I'm sure there's more. There's apparently really good Myst books for anyone who has as much of a Myst boner as I do. Apparently those are really good, but never read them. Next question from Nathan says, hey, Vinny and KY, I've been meaning to write a song or two for some time now, but I'm at a loss. Where do I start? Should I write lyrics before everything else? What would you recommend?
Noodle.
Say that again?
Noodle.
Yeah, just hire Noodle from the Gorillas. She'll write the songs. No, but I think I know what you're saying. Like, just start making crap.
Yeah, I think I don't start with lyrics, but everyone's different. There's no right or wrong way to write a song. I think it's just whatever comes from within. But for me, when I first started, I was just, learn guitar and then just started noodling on it. Here's what I would do. I would just watch TV or a movie or something, have your guitar or your instrument in hand, and just mindlessly play notes. Don't think about it. Just play, come up with little phrases that sound interesting, put them together, come up with progressions that sound interesting to you, and then try to work on like a chorus. Anyway, it's just have fun with it, noodle, play around, don't think too hard about it at first, and then keep doing that. You're going to write 99 terrible little riffs and songs, and then the 1% of good ones will turn into vomit in the ball pit. which is not something I'm necessarily proud of, but just keep trying and have fun with it, and also just be honest.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, just start playing around on an instrument is the perfect way to start. Like, just not even think about it. Just do your thing, and then you're like, oh, wait, what did I just do? And you try to do it again, write it down, record it, whatever you need to do. I would say I personally don't recommend starting with lyrics, because to me, like, what the words are isn't really what makes music, you know? It's the melody of those words. It's the instrumentation. It's everything under that. Like, the lyrics are important. Like, what those words are important to writing a good song, I think. But it's not what makes, like, what those words actually aren't the musical fiber, I guess, if that makes sense. It's like coming up with a concept of a game where you come up with the narrative before you come up with any mechanics whatsoever, like not a genre or anything.
Yeah.
If you just have words, it's not really music yet. You know, you could start with a melody. I'm not saying you need to have instruments to have music. I mean, there's plenty of a cappella stuff. And then you could start lyrics just with a melody. I don't know. I mean, I guess you could just write lyrics first, but then I feel like you're going to be just trying to fit everything to like a non-musical thing. You know, you're going to try to write music to non-music. I don't know. I just don't recommend starting with just lyrics. I would recommend starting with some kind of melody or chord progression, or even just a rhythm. You know, like when I'm out and about, sometimes I'm just idly like drumming on my lap or on a counter, and I'll come up with, like, doing that will either spur a riff or a melody in my head, or it will kind of come up with like just a hole with which I can later fill with music. That
Sure,
almost got very
well,
dirty. But
well, yeah, I mean, then you can help me write Blood Bagel 3 Volcano if you want to fill some holes. But anyway, I agree with KY, and this is something that I really enjoy doing. So like I said, just have fun with it, but it's good to start with music and to not beat yourself up if you don't do something that's amazing the first couple times. And also, I think a good thing to do is get a little recording program on your phone and just keep recording.
Yes.
Build, like, amass a collection of hundreds of little ideas.
Yes.
So
yeah, try to actually get it down. That's what I was gonna say too, is that once you do actually start coming up with some ideas, put it down somehow. Even if it's in, like, on paper, if you actually record it, something that you can listen to into a DAW on a computer, just something where you actually are working on it and can finish it, and try to finish as much as you can. Once you realize it's not going anywhere, don't be afraid to just fucking toss it, and it's not like you wasted time doing that, you know?
Yeah, time you enjoyed wasting was not time wasted.
I have 3 folders on my computer, because I write a lot of digital music. One folder is just new stuff, just stuff I started. I don't even know if it's good or bad yet. Once I know if something is good, like worth working on, I guess, that's a weird sentence, worth working on, I'll move it to a folder that is like projects, like things I actually want to see through and finish. Then if something is either finished and it's not good, or it's not going anywhere, I move it to the 3rd folder, which is basically a trash folder, in case I ever want to revisit or just to see what I've done, you know? So I have that little structure, works well for me. It makes me create stuff without worrying about whether or not it's any good, because the sooner you can tell yourself to not be afraid of creating trash, and to not be afraid of tossing it once you realize it's trash, the sooner your creative output just goes through the roof.
I agree. That's well said.
So
yeah.
And last question, this one's from Kyler. Question is, how did both of you get started streaming?
I guess I've answered this question a couple times, but in different ways. I'll answer it. Just I started watching streams in 2010, and I never really thought to do them until just randomly it hit me one day. I was like, hey, wait a minute, that looks like fun. I think I could do that. And I had an actual dream, not like an ambition, but like a nighttime sleepy dream that I was streaming Chrono Trigger. And so that's my favorite game. I know a lot about it. So I made a live stream and I just started streaming. and that was it. I mean, I sucked for a long time, but you get better as you do more things. And KY was one of the viewers, and I guess eventually KY started streaming. But you had streamed on your own a little bit before then, right?
Just a test stream, really. Nothing like.
What was it? A cat doing the laundry?
Oh yeah, I completely forgot about that. I had a live stream channel called Me Doing the Laundry, and it wasn't even a stream. It was just one autopilot video on a loop of my cat just scratching at the door of a laundry machine that was going. And that was all it was. It came from a joke from another chat. This guy who streamed Final Fantasy VII, I think we called him Bro P, because he was the OP of a 4chan thread, so we call him Bro P. But anyway, I joked with them during off hours. Oh, I'm gonna stream my cat doing the laundry. Started a channel called Me Doing the Laundry. Threw up a cat video at the laundry. It wasn't even my cat. It was just a video I found. And then that was my test channel that I used to do my first Vinesauce stream, which was Mother 3. And then I made like a proper... No, I actually used Me Doing the Laundry for a long time. Like behind the scenes, I guess, as like my live stream thing, because we just all streamed on the same channel. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I'm digressing hard as hell. Point is, I just kind of started... I got the program of the time, which was Procaster. Started playing a game I liked, which is Mother 3. I was fortunate enough to have some viewers to start, about 4 or 5 people that had migrated from Vinesauce, which was also just 4 or 5 viewers, where it was very low-key. It was like, hey, who wants to stream? So I did. Everyone came over. It's harder these days. It's easier than ever to start, but harder than ever to build an audience when you're one of literally thousands, like dozens of thousands of channels, all in the same portal, streaming. Very different. So we had like a platform through which we advertised, and there weren't a ton of streams. There were a lot, but not a ton. So it's harder to build an audience. I would say start streaming first off, even if it's to 0 viewers. That's the first step, no matter what you decide to do with it. Get OBS, choose a game, throw it on, boom, you're streaming. But if you do want to build an audience, talk to the chat if someone does pop in. If no one pops in, don't sweat it. Just keep streaming. Try to get, viewers from your friends, like just people just say, hey, come watch me play some video games. If you're part of a Discord channel that encourages that thing, say, hey, I'm streaming this game, come check it out. Know when it's appropriate to advertise your channel, but still advertise it, like find ways to get some people in, even if it's just a handful of people. That puts you like 99% higher than all of those channels who'd only have 1 viewer, Yeah,
I agree. Don't sweat it, but just don't do it because you want to be something later.
Yeah.
you gotta do it because you gotta do something now, and you want to have fun with it. I've said this before. There was no expectation for Vinesauce to be what it is today. There was no expectation to make any money. There was no expectation to have any kind of audience other than maybe 30, 40 people. And even that was a lot at the time. So it's harder, but it's also a little easier at the same time. And you don't have to figure out as much stuff. There's already like programs, templates, there's help. Twitch kind of guides you in the direction of how to do it. So yeah, I mean, have fun, as I said, with writing songs, because if you're not having fun, find something that makes you have fun if it isn't streaming.
Yep. Yeah, don't do it just to be the next big thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you can aim for that if you want, I guess, but I wouldn't start because of that necessarily.
Right. Yeah. There's better reasons to start, and that's because you just love what you do.
So. Yep. There was one more question about Star Wars, but I haven't seen Last Jedi yet. I was supposed to go yesterday, and plans fell through. So maybe next episode. Yeah. I think that's about gonna wrap things up. If you want to submit more listeners' mail for the next episode, I think we'll just do another chunk of this. Send them through. Come up with a good question. Send it to 2, as in the number 2, on the Vinecast at gmail.com. So cool. The number 2 on the Vinecast at gmail.com.
Yes. Well,
yeah.
I had a lot of fun. It was good to catch up. It was good to talk about the stuff that's going on, stuff we've been playing. We'll keep doing these podcasts irregularly, like a bowel movement, and and hopefully you continue to enjoy them and you submit stuff. And if you have any ideas for a good feature, like, this is kind of just me saying this now. Me and KY didn't like talk about this. I think we're happy with just talking and doing the news feature and the listener mail. But if you have a really killer feature idea that might be easy for us to do and a lot of fun for the listeners, throw that along too. Send us an email about that too.
Yeah, we're open to the suggestion, for sure. But I had fun talking about the news today. I definitely want to do that again next time.
Definitely.
Cool. All right. Well, I gotta head out. I'm gonna go bowling.
Okay.
So,
well, have fun, and I guess I gotta go make some dinner. So, I guess have fun bowling. That sounds like a lot more fun.
it's just a weekly thing. I do it with my coworkers, because I work next to a bowling alley, so we were like, let's join a league just for kicks.
Okay.
So once a week we bowl, drink beer and stuff.
Bowl especially well tonight.
I'm gonna try.
Okay.
I'm aiming for either a clean game, which is essentially nothing but strikes and spares, which I've gotten 9 out of 10 frames like countless times, but never got that clean game, or a 600 plus set, which is an over 200 average. So aiming for one of those two.
Do it. Have fun.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it. All right, I'm gonna head out.
right.
Thanks for listening, everybody. This was KY.
And I'm Vinny. Thanks for listening.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.